Okay, we are going back to my original stories, starting with Strange Stories number 1, which has 3 parts, and number 2, which has 2 parts. And only ones that are in the main timeline for both number 1 and number 2 is part 1, because the other parts are in a separate timeline, an alternate timeline. Along with one more story, but that's going to way downer. I'm gonna play Arkham City while you listen to these.
Strange Stories,
and
The Root King number 1, Part 1, Through the Eyes of the Verdant Warden. Dr. Elias Thorne once studied plants. Now he listens to them. Once a botanist experimenting with accelerated cellular regeneration, Thorne believed he could heal forests destroyed by war and industry. But the serum he designed bonded with him instead, rewriting his DNA, fusing chlorophyll with blood, turning muscle into fiber and bone into bark. He no longer breathes. He photosynthesizes. Now known only as Verdant Warden, the Root King, he does not see the world the way humans do. He feels it. The soil beneath the city pulses with footsteps. Concrete is pressure. Steel is suffocation. Engines are rot. But beneath the pavement, the roots whisper. They tell him of poisoned rivers, of trees cut before their time, of worms dying in soil that once fed generations. When a man tosses a cigarette into dry grass behind an abandoned factory, Elias does not run. The ground answers. Vines surge from cracks in the earth like serpents. Moss crawls up brick walls in seconds. Roots coil around the man's boots, gentle at first, then firm. The flames die under a blanket of damp leaves that bloom unnaturally fast. The man flees, screaming about a swamp monster. The warden does not chase him. He sinks partially into the earth, fingers unraveling into roots. He feels the city above and the forests far beyond. Humanity believes it owns the world. But the world is patient, and it remembers. Part 2. The city that should not be. The explorer enters the city at dawn. No birds sing here. The buildings lean inward like they're whispering secrets. Windows blink. Street signs twitch when not directly observed. He writes in his journal, open quote, "Architecture resembles bone growth. Organic, incorrect." Close quote. Something moves between skyscrapers. Too many limbs, too fluid. A bus stop melts slightly when he touches it. A woman stands at the end of the block. She waves. Her arm bends twice in the wrong direction. He blinks. She's gone. A subway entrance opens where there wasn't one before. From below, something hums like a choir underwater. The explorer checks his map. The city is not on it anymore. Behind him, the skyline shifts position. The streets rearrange. And somewhere high above, a billboard smiles. Part 3. Limited time offer. Hi there. The man wakes up sitting at a bright kitchen table. Everything is oversaturated. The colors hurt his eyes. Across from him sits a smiling woman holding a cereal box. Try Crunch Burst, now with more joy per bite. He stands up. The audience laughs. A sign flashes, applause. He looks around. There are no walls, just black space beyond the kitchen set. The woman freezes mid-smile. The world glitches. Suddenly, he's in a car commercial. 0% financing, someone shouts as confetti falls from nowhere. He runs. The scene cuts. Now he's holding a mop. Spill gone cleans your sins away. He throws it down. The floor resets. A booming narrator voice echoes, "Don't change the channel." He tries to scream. Cue laugh track. He notices something horrifying. There is no exit between commercials, only transitions. The screen flickers. Stay tuned, the voice says cheerfully. Forever. End of Strange Stories number 1.
And yes, with the last one, I was inspired by the Ice Cream Man stories from Image Comics. Anyways, here's number 2, which is only, I believe, 2 parts. And then we get Dragon Scales number 1.
Strange Stories number 2. Part 1. The investigator, Detective Roland Vance, did not believe in ghosts. He believed in footprints, in broken locks, in motive. So when the Harrow family claimed something was walking their halls at night, something tall, something that bent at the ceiling, he agreed to take the case purely to disprove it. The Harrow house stood alone at the edge of Blackridge County, 3 stories of old wood and older silence. Roland arrived at dusk. Inside, the air felt thick. Not cold, just aware. Mrs. Harrow described it carefully. It doesn't haunt, it observes. Roland checked the wiring first, then the windows, then the attic. No signs of forced entry, no hidden compartments. But in the attic dust, he found something strange. Impressions, not footprints. Long grooves, like something had dragged its fingers across the floorboards. That night, Roland stayed in the house with cameras, motion sensors, and a tape recorder running. At 2:13 a.m., the recorder clicked. Static. Then breathing. Not human breathing. Too slow. Too deliberate. Roland sat up in his chair. The hallway outside his room creaked. He opened the door. At the far end of the hall stood something thin and impossibly tall, its head tilted sideways as if confused by gravity. Its arms hung so low its fingers nearly touched the floor. It did not move. Neither did Roland. He reached slowly for his flashlight. The beam snapped on. The hallway was empty. But the walls were scratched, from floor to ceiling. Behind him, the tape recorder whispered one final sentence in a voice not his own. "You are easier to see in the dark." The next morning, Roland packed his equipment. He told the Harrow family the house was unsafe due to structural damage. He never filed the official report. Detective Roland Vance still doesn't believe in ghosts, but he no longer investigates after midnight. Part 2. The mountain blade snow fell in silence across the Kurayama Mountains. Mercenaries in black tactical gear climbed the narrow pass, rifles slung over their shoulders. A red dragon insignia marked their armor. They laughed too loudly for men in hostile territory. They did not notice the footprints following them were barefoot. High above, balanced on a frozen pine branch, stood a lone samurai. Her armor was traditional but adapted, lacquered black plates, layered over modern fabric. A crimson sash tied at her waist. Her katana rested calmly in her hand. Her name was Aiko of the Silent Ridge. The mercenaries reached a small shrine halfway up the path. That was when the wind changed. The first mercenary fell without a sound. Aiko moved like snowfall, graceful, inevitable. Steel flashed once, twice, 3 times. The mountains swallowed the gunshots and echoing booms, but they were fired too late. One mercenary turned, raising his weapon. Aiko stepped inside the barrel's line. A single precise strike. He dropped. The final mercenary ran into the trees. He never made it far. When the snow settled, only one set of footprints remained, leading away from the shrine. By dawn, the bodies were buried beneath white silence. The villagers below would never know how close danger had come, but in the high mountains, a protector still watched, and her blade remained sharp. End of Strange Stories number 2.
Okay. And even though the second part of it here is an alternate universe, she will come back in the main timeline, because there's going to be a main timeline version of her. So yeah. Next is The Dragon Scales number 1, which is set in the main timeline during the medieval time. So it's the earliest thing to come in the main timeline.
The Dragon Scales number 1, The Last Ember of Valtheris. In the kingdom of Valtheris, dragons were said to be extinct. That was only half true. The bells of Greyhaven rang as smoke rose beyond the wheat fields. Farmers ran for the gates. Soldiers scrambled to form ranks. The black banners of the warlord Malrek the Usurper marched across the hills, iron armor glinting beneath a blood-red sky. And at the front of the army rode a beast chained in steel. Not a dragon, but something that had once been one. Inside the city walls, an old monk whispered a prayer not to the heavens, but to fire. Far beyond the northern cliffs, in a cavern carved by ancient flame, a figure opened golden eyes. His name was Cale Viranth. The people once called him the Dragon. Cale was not a beast of 4 legs and wings. He was something rarer, a humanoid dragon, towering, broad-shouldered, his body layered in deep crimson scales edged in black. Horns curved back from his brow. His eyes burned like coals, and faint smoke curled from his nostrils when he breathed. Long ago, he had fought beside the human kingdoms against true dragons who sought dominion. He had chosen humanity. Humanity had not always chosen him back, so he had withdrawn. Until now. Kale stepped from his cavern as distant thunder echoed across the valley, not from the sky, but from siege engines battering Greyhaven's gates. He unfurled wings the color of molten dusk, and he leapt. The gates shattered. Malrek's soldiers poured into the city streets. Steel clashed, civilians screamed, fires spread. At the center of it all stood Malrek himself, clad in blackened plate armor forged with draconic bone. His gauntlet crackled with unnatural flame, green, sickly, wrong. Chained beside him strained the captured creature, a lesser drake, tortured and forced to breathe fire at Malrek's command. "Burn it," Malrek ordered. The drake screamed in pain as it obeyed. Then the sky split open. A shadow passed over the battlefield. Soldiers froze, wings beat once. Kale Virenth landed in the square with enough force to crack stone. The air trembled. Malrek stared upward. "Impossible." Kale's voice rumbled like distant thunder. "You chain my kin, you poison flame, you dare call yourself conqueror?" Malrek raised his gauntlet and unleashed a torrent of green fire. Kale stepped forward into it. The flames washed over his scales and died. His wings flared wide, scattering embers. With one swift motion, he severed the drake's chains. The freed creature stumbled away. Malrek roared and charged. Steel met scale. The warlord's enchanted blade struck Kale's chest, sparks flying, but failed to pierce. Kale answered with a clawed strike that shattered Malrek's breastplate and sent him crashing through a stone fountain. The square fell silent, except for crackling fire. Malrek staggered to his feet, blood at his lip. "You think they will accept you? You are monster and myth." Kale's eyes burned brighter. "I am choice." He inhaled deeply. This was not the wild inferno of beast dragons. This was focused, controlled. A line of brilliant crimson flame erupted from his jaws, melting Malrek's corrupted gauntlet and reducing his weapon to slag. The heat forced every soldier to their knees. When the fire faded, Malrek lay defeated, armor ruined, ambition broken. The remaining soldiers fled. By nightfall, the fires of Greyhaven were extinguished. Citizens gathered at a cautious distance from the towering dragon warrior standing amid the ruins. A small child stepped forward first. "Are you here to save us?" she asked. Bill looked down at her. His expression softened as much as scaled features allowed. "I am here," he said. The monk from earlier approached, bowing deeply. "Valtheris owes you its life, dragon." Kale flexed his wings, preparing to leave. "No," he replied quietly. "Valtheris owes itself a better future." With a powerful leap, he rose into the night sky, circling once above the city before disappearing into the clouds. Below, whispers spread through the kingdom. The dragons were not gone. One still walked among them, and he had chosen to fight. Far to the east, in a dark fortress beyond the mountains, ancient eyes opened at the tremor of returning flame. The Age of Scales had begun again, to be continued.
And next is Nightwolf number 3, which is 3 parts. Each is a different number. We got Nightwolf number 3, number 3.2, and number 3.3.
Nightwolf number 3, Hunt of the Fox. Rain fell over Jackson City like a curtain of silver needles, washing neon light across the pavement in streaks of red and gold. From the gargoyle-lined edge of a high rise, Nightwolf watched. Black and green armor blended into the storm. The lenses of his cowl adjusted automatically, scanning heat signatures inside the warehouse below. Crates, armed guards, chemical barrels, and narcotics. Black Lotus. Max Jackson muttered beneath the mask. Synthetic, addictive, lethal. Inside the Wolf Cave hours earlier, he had traced the surge in overdoses to a new trafficking ring operating through the Narrows district. The shipments moved fast. Clean, professional, too professional for street gangs. A new predator had entered his city. Nightwolf leapt from the rooftop, cape flaring slightly before retracting tight against his armored frame. He fired a grapple, swung silently through a broken window, and landed behind a stack of crates. Voices echoed. "She'll be here soon," one guard said nervously. A second laughed. "You've never seen her? She's beautiful, deadly, like a fox." Nightwolf's jaw tightened. He moved. Smoke pellets burst across the floor. In seconds, the warehouse became a maze of confusion. Nightwolf struck from shadow to shadow, elbow to the throat, nerve strike to the shoulder, disarming kick. Men dropped silently, but this operation had teeth. From the upper catwalk came a slow clap. "Well done," a woman's voice purred. Nightwolf looked up. She stood under the flickering industrial lights, clad in sleek orange and black armor contoured.
Okay, Foxwoman was going to be my Catwoman counterpart, but I decided to make Foxwoman a Red Claw counterpart, and I brought back my original character, Cheshire Cat, who will be the Catwoman-like character. Her, Cheshire Cat, and Quickshade, who are original characters I made a long time ago, will return in my sub-series of Nightwolf stories called Nightwolf Stories. Yeah, they're not the main storyline of Nightwolf stories. It's like how, Spider-Man has like spectacular Spider-Man, that's like the main storyline. It could be, and then he has like Amazing Spider-Man off to the side, kinda. It's like that, basically. But yeah.
Like a fox's body, a stylized vulpine mask framing sharp green eyes, a flowing cemented tail extended from her suit, not decorative but mechanical. "Foxwoman," Nightwolf growled. She bowed slightly. "I prefer simply Fox, but I suppose branding matters." She pressed a button on her wrist. The tail snapped forward, firing a thin dart that embedded into a steel beam beside Nightwolf's head, acid sizzling instantly. "Efficient," she smiled. "Like you." Nightwolf activated his gauntlet shield just as more darts flew. He advanced carefully. "You're poisoning my city." "Your city?" She laughed, vaulting from the catwalk with inhuman agility. "Men like you and Commissioner Granger pretend to own it. I simply profit from its weakness." They collided. Her fighting style was fluid, unpredictable. Low sweeps, spinning strikes, claws hidden in gloves. She was trained, elite. Nightwolf countered with precision. He adapted, analyzing her rhythm. But she wasn't alone. Warehouse doors exploded inward. Police cruisers flooded the street outside. And leading them, Lieutenant Daniel Mercer. "Jackson City PD," Daniel shouted. "Drop your weapons," Foxwoman hissed. "You brought friends." Nightwolf didn't answer. Gunfire erupted. Officers pinned down remaining traffickers while Nightwolf kept Foxwoman occupied. She vaulted onto stacked crates, slicing at his shoulder plating. Sparks flew. "You're good," she admitted, circling him. "But you don't kill. That's your weakness." "No," Nightwolf replied calmly. "It's my choice." He triggered an EMP pulse from his belt. Her mechanical tail froze mid-strike. In that split second, Daniel Mercer moved in from behind, weapon drawn but steady. "Foxwoman," Daniel said firmly, "it's over." She glanced between them, calculating. Then she smirked. A hidden flash charge detonated at her feet, flooding the warehouse in blinding light. When it faded, she was gone. Only a small fox-shaped emblem lay on the concrete. Daniel approached Nightwolf cautiously. "You could have taken her alone," Daniel admitted. "Not tonight," Nightwolf replied. "She's connected. This operation wasn't independent." Daniel nodded. "Ostrich?" Nightwolf's silence confirmed it. Days later, the city buzzed. Raids across Jackson City dismantled warehouses, seized drugs, arrested distributors. The Black Lotus ring collapsed without its leader. On the steps of police headquarters, Commissioner Theodore Theo Granger addressed the press, clearly agitated. "This vigilante complicates lawful enforcement," Granger barked. "We will not tolerate masked interference." Standing nearby, Daniel Mercer remained quiet. That night, gunshots rang out in the commissioner's private parking garage. Theo Granger fell before he could draw his weapon. A single feather, dyed gold, was left beside the body. A message from someone who worked for Ostrich. The funeral was somber. Jackson City mourned. Within weeks, Lieutenant Daniel Mercer was sworn in as the new police commissioner of Jackson City. His first act was unexpected. Under a clear evening sky, reporters gathered outside headquarters. Among them stood Grant Mercer and Grace, cameras flashing. Daniel stepped to the podium. "For too long," he began, "we have fought crime divided. Pride has cost this city. Commissioner Granger believed Nightwolf was a threat. I believe he is an ally." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Daniel continued, "Effective immediately, Jackson City Police will cooperate with Nightwolf in matters concerning organized crime and meta-human threats." Then, from behind the podium, he lifted something unexpected. A polished steel trophy engraved with a wolf insignia. Gasps rippled through the reporters. "Though he may not stand here in person," Daniel said, voice steady, This city owes him gratitude. From a nearby rooftop, unseen by all but the night itself, Nightwolf watched. Daniel placed the trophy on the podium. For aiding in the dismantling of the Black Lotus trafficking ring and protecting the citizens of this city, we honor Nightwolf. Cameras flashed wildly. Grace whispered into her microphone, "History in the making." Grant Mercer added, "A masked guardian recognized by law enforcement." Wind swept across the rooftop. Nightwolf remained still for a long moment, then he vanished into the darkness. Below, the engraved trophy caught the city lights. The wolf was no longer hunted. He was part of the pack. And somewhere in the shadows of Jackson City, Foxwoman watched the news feed on a small screen, green eyes narrowing behind her mask. "The hunt isn't over," she whispered. "To be continued."
Now going on to Nightwolf number 3.2.
Nightwolf number 3.2, Souvenirs of the Hunt. Deep beneath Jackson City, hidden under layers of reinforced steel and stone, the wolf cave stood silent. Max Jackson removed his cowl slowly. In his hands was the trophy. Polished steel, a wolf insignia engraved at the center. Commissioner Daniel Mercer's words still echoed in his mind. "We honor Nightwolf." Bruce stood nearby, posture perfect as always. "You've earned it, Master Jackson," the butler said calmly. Max studied the trophy for a long moment before walking toward a long glass case built into the cave wall. Inside were reminders of every war he had fought. A shattered Red Skull mask taken from Victor Cade, a purple armband from the Purple Gang, a golden feather left behind by Ostrich's men, a cracked dart launcher from Foxwoman's first encounter. Each piece wasn't a prize. It was a warning. He opened the case and placed the trophy carefully in the center. "For the city," Max said quietly. Bruce gave a faint smile. "Let us hope the city continues to deserve you." An alert flashed across the cave monitors. Downtown. Midtown Federal Bank. Armed robbery in progress. Max's eyes hardened. "Suit up," Bruce said. Nightwolf was already moving. The bank lobby was chaos. Civilians lay on the marble floor as masked figures barked orders. They wore identical black suits. Red visors glowed across their eyes. On each chest, stitched in bold crimson, a dragon. The same symbol seen across multiple cities. Professional. Coordinated. One robber smashed a display case while another stuffed duffel bags with cash. Outside, police cruisers formed a perimeter, but no one had entered yet. The front doors shattered inward. Nightwolf stepped through smoke. The robbers turned. "Target acquired," one shouted. Automatic gunfire erupted. Nightwolf moved like flowing shadow, cape snapping behind him as rounds ricocheted off reinforced armor. He hurled a concussive disc that detonated midair, sending 2 men flying into a marble pillar. Another charged him with a combat blade. Nightwolf caught the attacker's wrist, twisted sharply, and drove him into the ground with controlled force. No killing. Never killing. 2 more flanked him. He fired twin grapple lines into the ceiling, yanking himself upward as gunfire tore across the floor. From above, he dropped a flash charge. Light exploded across the lobby. When vision returned, Nightwolf was among them. Precise strikes, disarms, broken rifles sliding across polished tile. One final robber sprinted toward the hostages, grabbing a terrified teller as a shield. "Back off," he screamed. Nightwolf's lenses narrowed. He reached into his belt. A micro-batarang spun silently through the air, severing the robber's weapon strap. In the same motion, Nightwolf closed the distance and pulled the hostage free, driving the man into the nearest desk. Silence fell over the bank. Police stormed in moments later. Commissioner Daniel Mercer entered behind them, scanning the scene. The dragon-suited robbers lay unconscious and restrained with their own zip ties. Daniel looked up just in time to see Nightwolf standing atop the staircase balcony. "You're sending a message?" Daniel called out. "Aren't you?" Nightwolf's voice echoed evenly from behind the mask. "They're organized. Not random. Someone's funding them." Daniel nodded. "We'll dig." Nightwolf paused, then added, "This is bigger than Jackson City." For a split second, mutual understanding passed between them. Then Nightwolf fired his grapple into the ceiling skylight and vanished into the daylight sky. Reporters swarmed outside moments later. Grant Mercer stood before the cameras. Another coordinated strike by the so-called Red Dragon mercenaries ends in failure tonight thanks to Jackson City's armored guardian. Grace added, Commissioner Mercer confirmed police cooperation with Nightwolf remains active. High above, from a distant rooftop, Nightwolf watched the flashing lights below. A dragon emblem. Again, this wasn't local. It was spreading. And in the wolf cave, beneath the city he swore to protect, a steel trophy sat among relics of war. Not a symbol of glory, a reminder. The hunt had only just begun. To be continued.
And now, taking a break from Nightwolf, we're going on to Robin Hood number 2, and then we're going on to Nightwolf number 3.3.
Kafka, Robin Hood number 2, the sovereign's shadow night over Evergreen City like a curtain of smoke and neon. On the upper balconies of the historic Vale Tower, men in tailored suits stood guard with rifles beneath marble statues of kings and conquerors. Inside, Roman Vale, known in the underworld as the Sovereign, conducted business like royalty, presiding over a corrupt empire. Money laundering, weapons shipments, political favors, and tonight, a shipment of something far worse. 3 black SUVs rolled into the underground garage beneath the tower. Crates were unloaded quickly, marked with a stylized spiral insignia, Vertaxis. Across the street, perched on a Gothic cathedral spire, a hooded figure watched through emerald-tinted lenses. Robin Hood adjusted the modified crossbow mounted along his right forearm. All right, Your Majesty, he muttered. Let's redistribute some wealth. He fired a grappling bolt and zipped silently to a rooftop overlooking the garage entrance. Below, armed guards laughed as they cracked open a crate. Inside, small metallic canisters glowing faintly purple. Vertaxis. A designer narcotic sweeping through the city's clubs, highly addictive, neurologically destabilizing, and absurdly profitable. The drug was created and distributed by Count Alexander Varelli, a self-proclaimed nobleman who insisted on being addressed as Count. In the streets, they called him Vertaxis. He liked to host private demonstrations, where he'd release controlled doses into the air, watching victims stagger in disoriented spirals of vertigo and paranoia. Robin Hood hated him already. One guard turned, thwip, a net arrow fired from the shadows, wrapping him mid-sentence and slamming him against a support beam. Before the others reacted, smoke arrows detonated in rapid succession, flooding the garage in thick gray clouds. Green silhouettes moved through the haze, punching glove arrow, thud. A rifle went flying. A sweep kick sent another thug crashing into stacked crates. Who the hell is he? Someone shouted. Robin Hood dropped between them, spinning his staff-like bow in one hand. Tax season, he quipped. I'm the audit. A mercenary charged. Robin Hood pivoted, firing a shock arrow into the ground at the man's feet. The electric burst sent him convulsing harmlessly onto the concrete. Within seconds, Roman Vale's men were unconscious, webbed, or groaning in restraints. Sirens wailed in the distance. Robin Hood turned toward the elevator doors just as they opened. Slow, deliberate footsteps echoed from within. Count Alexander Varelli stepped out, dressed in a dark emerald suit with silver trim. His pale hair was slicked back. In one gloved hand, he carried a slender cane with a crystalline top that pulsed faintly. You've interrupted a very important exchange, Varelli said smoothly. Robin Hood tilted his head. And you've poisoned half the nightlife scene, so I guess we're even. Varelli tapped the crystal. The air shimmered. Suddenly the garage tilted, at least to Robin Hood's senses. The world spun violently, the floor seeming to drop away beneath him. Lights warped into spirals. Sounds stretched into warped echoes. Vertaxis gas, microdosed and airborne. Robin Hood staggered, catching himself against a car hood. Varelli smiled. Balance is such a fragile thing. Robin Hood shut his eyes. Breathe. Focus. Master Kenji Takahara's voice echoed in his memory. Trust your body when your eyes betray you. Robin Hood rolled as a wave of dizziness hit him. He fired blindly. A sonic arrow screamed through the air, shattering the crystal atop Varelli's cane. The spinning sensation lessened instantly. Varelli snarled and lunged with surprising speed, swinging the metal cane like a duelist's blade. Robin Hood parried with his bow, the impact ringing sharp. "You think you're a hero?" Varelli hissed. "You're a thief in costume." Robin Hood grinned. "That's kind of the point." He fired a compact flash arrow at close range. The burst stunned Varelli just long enough. Robin Hood swept his legs out and pinned him face down, securing his wrists with reinforced zip restraints. Police sirens grew louder. Somewhere high above, Roman Vale watched from a penthouse balcony, eyes cold. The sovereign did not interfere. Not yet. Robin Hood looked up toward the tower windows. "I'll be back for you, Your Majesty," he muttered. He fired a grappling line skyward and launched upward just as evergreen police cruisers screeched into the garage. Officers rushed in to find drug crates, unconscious mobsters, and one furious Count Alexander Varelli ranting about aristocratic immunity. From a distant rooftop, Robin Hood crouched in silhouette, listening as officers spoke below. "He's escalating," one cop said. "First mob money, now international traffickers." "Guy's going to get himself killed." Robin Hood smiled under the hood. "Not tonight." He vanished across the skyline of Evergreen City as news helicopters circled overhead. And far above, in Vale Tower's penthouse, Roman Vale lifted a glass of wine. "The game continues," he murmured. The sovereign had been challenged, and Robin Hood had just declared open season. To be continued.
And now we'll move on to Nightwolf number 3.3. And after this will be Grant Mercer number 1.
Nightwolf 3.3. Reminders in the Dark. The Wolf Cave was quiet. Above, Jackson City buzzed with distant sirens and restless traffic. But below the earth, beneath stone and steel, there was only the soft hum of computers and the echo of memory. Max Jackson stood before the glass display wall. His cowl rested under one arm. Bruce approached silently, as he always did. "You've been standing there for some time, Master Jackson." Max didn't look away. Inside the reinforced case were fragments of war, pieces of the past. The first object sat in the upper corner, a jagged shard of red lacquered bone, the bottom left portion of a skull mask. Victor Cady, red mask. His father's coffin, Max said quietly, turned into a symbol of fear. He shifted his gaze to the next item, a deep purple armband torn and stained. "The Purple Gang," Bruce noted. "They thought chemicals and numbers made them powerful," Max replied. They were wrong. Below it rested a single playing card sealed in a thin frame, a joker, the only thing that fell from Red Helmet's coat before he plunged into the vat at Blackwater Chemical Plant. No, Bruce reminded him. Max's eyes narrowed slightly. No closure. Next, encased beside it, several elegant feathers, dyed gold and violet. "Dominic Falconer Struthers," Bruce said. "The ostrich." "He hid behind vanity and theatrics," Max replied. "But predators always slip." Further down hung a worn identification badge. Jackson Industries. Marcus Matthews. "The Shadow Man," Bruce said softly. Max's jaw tightened. He blamed children for his grief. Let darkness consume him. A slender dagger lay mounted beside it, curved and polished, fox insignia carved into the hilt. "Foxwoman," Bruce observed. "She masked greed with charm," Max said. "But crime always leaves a trail." And finally, centered beneath subtle lighting, the polished trophy presented to him by Commissioner Daniel Mercer. A silver wolf crest engraved into its face, public recognition, approval, a city beginning to accept him. Bruce folded his hands behind his back. "Why do you keep them, Master Jackson?" Max finally turned. "Not as rewards." His voice was steady, but not cold. as reminders. He walked slowly along the display of what they did, of what they became. He stopped at the shard of Red Mask's skull fragment, and of what I could become. Bruce's expression softened. And what is it they remind you of? Max looked back at the entire collection. The good I do, he said quietly, by taking down the bad and the ugly. Above them, lightning flashed across distant storm clouds, faint rumbling shaking the cave ceiling. Bruce nodded once. Then may they continue to remind you of your purpose, sir. Max replaced his cowl. The display lights dimmed automatically. The trophies remained, silent witnesses to the war for Jackson City's soul. And in the darkness of the wolf cave, Nightwolf prepared for whatever came next. Because reminders were important, but the hunt never ended. To be continued. Grant Mercer #1, A City Divided No More. The lights of Channel 9 News burned bright against the skyline of Jackson City. Inside the studio, cameras rolled. Red indicators blinked to life. Producers counted down silently. Grant Mercer straightened his tie and looked directly into the lens. This is Grant Mercer reporting live from Jackson City News Channel 9. Tonight marks a turning point for our city. Behind him, the screen displayed footage from earlier that week. Flashing police lights, confiscated narcotics stacked in evidence crates, and the arrest of the elusive crime boss known as Foxwoman. After months of investigation into a widespread drug trafficking ring, law enforcement has confirmed the successful capture of the criminal figure known as Foxwoman. Images appeared of the fox-masked villain being escorted into a police vehicle, wrists restrained. Grace stood beside him at the large screen, tablet in hand. Authorities have stated that this operation would not have been possible without coordinated effort between Jackson City Police and the vigilante known as Nightwolf. The footage shifted again. Nightwolf, armored, black and green, moving through smoke during the raid. Officers covering his blind spots, a synchronized effort instead of a standoff. Grant nodded. For years, Nightwolf has operated in the shadows, feared by criminals, questioned by officials, debated by citizens. He paused slightly. But tonight, the narrative changes. Cut to the press conference. Now Commissioner Daniel Mercer stood at a podium outside police headquarters, flanked by officers. Evidence boards displayed seized shipments and arrest records tied to Foxwoman's trafficking network. We will not tolerate organized crime in Jackson City, Daniel's recorded voice echoed from the screen. And moving forward, the JCPD will cooperate with Nightwolf in the interest of public safety. The crowd had murmured at that announcement. Grace turned back toward the camera. This announcement comes shortly after the tragic death of former Commissioner Theodore Granger, whose passing remains under investigation. With Commissioner Mercer's appointment, a new direction appears to be underway. Grant folded his hands calmly. Some call Nightwolf a hero. Others still question his methods. The broadcast shifted to street interviews, citizens giving opinions. He saved my brother during that bank robbery. Still a masked man taking the law into his own hands. At least he gets results. Grant's expression softened just slightly. What cannot be denied, he continued, is that crime rates linked to organized mob activity have dropped significantly since Nightwolf's emergence. Footage rolled again. The takedown of Foxwoman's operation. Officers clearing rooms, Nightwolf disarming guards, drug shipments secured. Grace stepped forward with updated statistics. Police confirm over 24 arrests connected to the trafficking ring, along with multiple seized accounts and assets tied to Foxwoman's organization. Grant glanced at her before addressing the audience once more. For the first time in recent memory, the police and the city's masked guardian stand on the same side of the battlefield. He leaned slightly closer to the desk. The question now isn't whether Nightwolf is real. A dramatic pause. It's whether Jackson City is finally ready to accept him. The camera slowly zoomed out. Behind them, the image of Nightwolf silhouette against police lights filled the screen. Grant finished firmly. "This has been Grant Mercer reporting. Stay safe, Jackson City." The broadcast cut. Studio lights dimmed slightly. Grace looked toward Grant. "You think this partnership lasts?" Grant exhaled slowly. "In this city," he replied, "nothing lasts." Outside, somewhere high above the skyline, a dark figure watched the glowing news tower from a distant rooftop. The partnership had begun. But the war for Jackson City was far from over. To be continued.
Now we have the next two are remakes of old stories I had.
Case file number 1, Spec-01, Luminex Ravager clearance level Omega Black. Status contained. Official designation, Luminex Ravager. Captured classification, Specimen 0011, overview. Specimen 001, codenamed Luminex Ravager, is an extraterrestrial predatory organism resembling an enlarged terrestrial firefly species. Initial contact followed coordinated reports of unexplained disappearances across remote forested and desert regions spanning multiple continents. The Ravager represents humanity's first confirmed capture and containment of a hostile off-world lifeform. Prior to containment, the organism demonstrated advanced hunting intelligence, extreme physical resilience, and mass casualty capability. Appearance and physiology. Exoskeleton. The Ravager possesses a dense, chitinous outer shell capable of withstanding small arms fire and resisting conventional cutting implements. Impact tests indicate layered biological plating comparable to reinforced composite armor. Thoracic and abdominal blades. Serrated protrusions extend from its midsection, functioning as natural cutting weapons. These appendages are used for impalement, slashing, and rapid dismemberment of prey. Wings. Semi-translucent, high-frequency vibrating structures. When in motion, they emit a low, sustained droning hum that has been reported to induce anxiety responses in nearby organisms. Bioluminescent organ. Located within the abdomen, this organ produces an intensely bright, strobing luminescent output. Spectral analysis shows shifting wavelengths outside normal human visual tolerance ranges. Predatory behavior. The Ravager employs a calculated blinking sequence to attract and incapacitate prey. Witnesses describe symptoms including dizziness, muscular paralysis, slowed cognition, and trance-like fixation upon direct exposure to the light. Once prey is immobilized, the organism strikes with rapid precision using sharpened limbs. Forensic examinations reveal extensive internal trauma, consistent with multiple high-force piercing penetrations delivered in seconds. Lethality and confirmed casualties. Estimated 400-plus confirmed fatalities attributed to Specimen 001 prior to capture. Incidents recorded across forest regions, deserts, and rural infrastructure zones. Prey selection appears opportunistic. Documented targets include civilians, livestock, military personnel, armored transport vehicles. Survivors consistently report the creature's blinding light as the final visual stimulus before loss of consciousness. Shasha containment status. Specimen 001 is currently housed within an off-grid, undisclosed research facility under maximum security protocol. Containment measures include multi-layer reinforced steel chamber, electromagnetic field stabilizers, light dampening, polarized observation glass, automated feeding and environmental regulation systems. Personnel interaction is strictly remote. Direct visual exposure to the Ravager's bioluminescent organ is prohibited. Scientific uncertainty. Researchers remain unable to conclusively determine the mechanism behind the light-based incapacitation effect. Current hypotheses include 1. Biological neural hypnosis, advanced biotechnological adaptation. 3. Electromagnetic brainwave disruption. 4. Low-level psychic or extrasensory influence. Testing remains ongoing. Capture summary. Specimen 001 was subdued following a coordinated multinational military operation utilizing high-voltage conductive netting, industrial-grade tranquilizers, electromagnetic pulse deployment, aerial containment units. Containment resulted in 27 confirmed military casualties and significant structural damage to the surrounding area. Final assessment. Specimen 001 remains among the most dangerous life forms encountered by humanity. Whether the Luminex Ravager is an isolated anomaly, an invasive scout organism, or part of a larger interstellar ecosystem remains unknown. Continued surveillance is mandatory. End of case file number 1. Would you like case file number 2, specimen 002, written in this same classified format for continuity?
And now we're moving on to number 2. And then we get green torch number 0.3.
Case file number 2, specimen 002, Noctyra wraithwing clearance level, Omega Black. Status contained. Official designation, Noctyra wraithwing, captured classification, specimen 002, species cluster, Luminex. Overview. Specimen 002, codenamed Noctyra wraithwing, is the second confirmed extraterrestrial organism within the Luminex class taxonomy. Genetic sampling and exoskeletal analysis strongly suggest evolutionary linkage to specimen 001, Luminex ravager, though behavioral divergence indicates specialized adaptation. Where specimen 001 demonstrates overt aggression and brute force predation, specimen 002 exhibits advanced stealth capability, rapid mobility, and pronounced psychological warfare tendencies. Initial encounters followed unexplained disappearances near isolated desert settlements. Unlike prior mass casualty events attributed to specimen 01, wraithwing activity left minimal physical evidence, resulting in delayed identification and higher sustained fatality rates before containment. Appearance and physiology. Exoskeleton, elongated and streamlined body structure coated in a matte, light-absorbing chitin. Surface reflects less than 2% measurable light, rendering the organism nearly invisible under low illumination conditions. Light ports. The abdominal region contains multiple narrow bioluminescent slits capable of emitting controlled pulses of spectral light. Unlike specimen 001's strobing flash, these emissions shift in color, intensity, and pattern complexity. Wing structure. Thin, extended wings vibrate at near-silent frequencies. Audio recordings reveal subsonic resonance capable of inducing disorientation and mild nausea in nearby organisms. Proboscis, a reinforced, needle-like feeding appendage capable of penetrating bone tissue. Internal channels allow for rapid fluid extraction. Residue analysis confirms hemovoric feeding patterns, blood consumption, combined with aggressive dehydration of host tissue. Predatory behavior. Specimen 002 deploys controlled luminescent patterns that victims describe as symbols, faces, or moving glyphs within the glow. Exposure results in severe paranoia, visual and auditory hallucinations, acute panic response, psychological breakdown prior to physical attack. The wraithwing remains silent during stalking phases, revealing its light only after prey is neurologically compromised. Termination method, single proboscis puncture, followed by rapid fluid siphoning. Victims are left as desiccated remains with minimal external trauma. Lethality and confirmed casualties. Estimated 250 plus confirmed deaths prior to containment. Activity concentrated in desert highways, rural outposts, and low population regions. Forensic findings include severe internal dehydration, organ shrinkage, single cranial or thoracic puncture wound. Survivor testimonies consistently reference prolonged stalking behavior, reporting distant wing vibrations and intermittent ghost-like flashes of light and darkness for several days before attempted attack. Containment status. Specimen 002 is housed within a fully light-suppressed containment chamber in an undisclosed research facility. Containment protocols include absolute darkness environment, multi-layer radiation and signal shielding, thermal imaging surveillance only, remote nutrient fluid delivery systems. Exposure to visible light triggers heightened predatory response patterns. All observation must be conducted without direct visual contact. Multiple research fatalities occurred during early containment attempts involving accidental illumination. Behavioral observations. Unlike specimen 01, specimen 002 demonstrates measurable signs of intelligence, pauses during stimuli testing, pattern variation in luminescent output when observed, apparent recognition of repetitive human presence, Light sequences that do not correspond to hunting behavior. Encrypted pattern analysis suggests the possibility of structured signaling. Final assessment. Specimen 002 is considered potentially more dangerous than Specimen 001 due to its subtlety, psychological impact, and adaptive intelligence. The luminescent glyph patterns may represent 1. Advanced neurolinguistic manipulation, 2. Species-level communication coding, 3. Extraterrestrial broadcasting behavior. If the latter is confirmed, Specimen 002 may not function solely as a predator, but as a reconnaissance or signaling organism. Implication: Earth may have already been cataloged. End of case file number 2. Would you like to proceed with case file number 3 and expand this into a connected extraterrestrial containment dossier series, Specimen 003, 04, etc.?
Anyways, next is Green Torch number 0.3. And then a remake of my Doom of Hell story I was working on. And that's set in an alternate universe, not in the main one.
Green Torch on point, light against the Luminex. Part 1, Ravager. High above the desert testing zone, a green streak tore across the night sky. Hal Ashford adjusted his trajectory mid-flight, emerald energy flaring around him like living flame. The ring on his finger pulsed steadily, projecting a protective aura as warning sirens echoed below. Specimen 01 had escaped. The Luminex Ravager burst from the shattered research facility perimeter in a violent eruption of steel and dust. Its hardened shell deflected gunfire effortlessly. Soldiers scattered as its abdomen began to pulse. Bright, violent, strobing. Several troops collapsed instantly, clutching their helmets as the hypnotic light intensified. Hal squinted. Not tonight, Bug. The green ring flared, forming a wide, translucent visor over his eyes. Data streamed across the construct as the ring filtered the Ravager's wavelengths. The alien launched itself into the air with a thunderous beat of wings. Hal shot upward to meet it, claws slashed. Hal countered with a massive emerald gauntlet that caught the Ravager mid-strike. Sparks flew as chitin met hard light energy. The Ravager screeched, abdomen flashing faster, attempting to overwhelm him. Hal responded instantly, constructing a mirrored dome around the creature, reflecting its own strobing light back inward. The Ravager faltered, disoriented by the feedback. "You like bright lights?" Hal muttered. "Try mine." A concentrated beam of focused green energy struck the Ravager's thorax, forcing it downward into the desert floor. Sand erupted in a crater. The creature tried to rise. Hal wrapped it in layered energy restraints. Chains, reinforced bands, electromagnetic fields woven into solidified willpower. The Ravager thrashed violently. The constructs held. Military containment vehicles rolled forward as Hal lowered the bound alien to reinforce transport. One officer stared up at him. "How did you even see through that light?" Hal gave a half smile beneath his mask. Willpower's brighter. As the Ravager was secured once more, Hal hovered briefly above the desert, scanning the horizon. The ring pulsed again. Another signal. Another Luminex signature. And this one felt different. Part 2. Wraithwing night swallowed the dunes miles away. Silent. Cold. The Noctira Wraithwing drifted between rock formations like living shadow. Its body absorbed nearly all available light. Only faint, ghostly pulses slipped from its abdominal ports. 2 search teams lay scattered nearby, but curled in terror, whispering about symbols in the dark. Hal descended cautiously. His ring projected a dim green field, barely illuminating the sand. "All right," he whispered. "Stealth mode." The Wraithwing revealed itself only when it wanted to. Its light ports flickered, not bright, subtle, shifting glyph-like patterns that twisted in the air. Hal felt it instantly, a tightening behind his eyes. The shape seemed to move with intent, forming impossible geometry. Fear prickled along his spine. His breathing grew heavier. The ring's voice chimed softly in his mind. Psychological intrusion detected. Hal clenched his fist. "Nope, not today." He amplified the ring's protective barrier, forming a full cranial shield. The alien's glyphs intensified, morphing rapidly. The Wraithwing lunged without warning, wings producing only a faint vibration. Hal reacted a split second before impact, constructing a rotating cage of spinning green panels. The creature slammed into it, proboscis striking the barrier with piercing force. Cracks spidered across the construct. Stronger than you look, Hal muttered. The Wraithwing vanished. Not physically, visually. It dimmed itself to near invisibility, circling. Hal closed his eyes. Ring, he said quietly. Thermal overlay. The world shifted. There. A cold silhouette cutting through warm desert air, Hal spun and unleashed a burst of radial light, flooding the area in blinding green brilliance. The Wraithwing shrieked as its light ports flared uncontrollably. It tried to project its glyphs again, but Hal responded with a latticework of hard light prisms, scrambling and refracting the alien's patterns into meaningless fragments. No signals, Hal said firmly. He compressed the constructs inward, forming a suspended containment sphere. Layer upon layer of emerald wool sealed around the struggling organism. The Wraithwing paused. For a split second, its light patterns shifted into something slower. Measured. Almost. Deliberate. Hal narrowed his eyes. Yeah, I saw that. The military convoy arrived minutes later to secure the alien. As both Specimen 001 and Specimen 002 were transported back into reinforced containment, Hal hovered above the desert once more. 2 Luminex, different tactics, same origin. His ring pulsed again, faintly, a distant echo in space. Hal stared upward at the stars. If you've got more coming, he said quietly, send them. Green light ignited brighter around him as he rocketed into the sky. The war against the unknown had just begun. To be continued.
Then we get World's Greatest number 2.
Doom of hell. The sky split open like torn flesh. Fire rained downward. And from that burning fracture in reality, a single figure fell. He hit the blackened ground of hell like a meteor. The impact cracked the obsidian stone beneath him, lava veins glowing between fractured lines. Sulfur choked the air. Screams echoed somewhere beyond the red fog. The Marine rose slowly. His armor was battle-forged green. Thick, plated, scarred from wars no one on Earth would ever know about. A crimson visor stretched across his helmet like a narrow slit of rage. At the center of his chest burned a jagged red crystal core, pulsing faintly like a mechanical heart. His right arm shifted, metal components locking into place as a heavy blaster extended forward with a low hum. His left arm twitched, and a long, curved blade snapped outward from beneath the forearm, plating with a sharp metallic hiss. A guttural roar rolled across the wasteland. They had noticed him. The first demon came charging over a ridge of bone and ash. Massive, horned, its skin cracked like cooling magma. A second crawled from a pit nearby, all claws and teeth and burning eyes. The Marine did not hesitate. His blaster thundered. Green energy rounds tore through the first demon's skull, bursting it apart in a spray of flame and black ichor. The second leapt, shrieking. The Marine stepped forward into the attack. His blade flashed. One clean arc. The demon's torso separated before its scream finished. More shapes stirred in the red haze. Winged horrors circled overhead. Spiked beasts skittered between broken pillars carved from skulls. The Marine advanced, every step deliberate, every motion precise. Blaster fire lit the darkness in rapid bursts. Demons fell in pieces. The blade carved through limbs, wings, torsos. The red crystal in his chest glowed brighter with each kill, humming faintly, feeding perhaps, or stabilizing. Minutes passed, or hours. Time meant nothing here. Bodies burned around him. The screams faded. Silence returned. Ahead stood a massive iron door embedded into a cliff of writhing flesh and stone. Symbols burned across its surface in infernal script. From behind it came something deeper, heavier, breathing. The Marine retracted his blade with a metallic snap. His blaster powered up, energy building along its barrel. He stepped toward the door, placed one armored hand against it. The symbols flared, the ground trembled, and the door slowly began to open. To be continued.
And then we have World's Finest number 2.2. And then I believe Nightwolf number 4. And then I think another World's Finest. Yeah, Nightwolf number 4. And then I believe another World's Finest.
World's Greatest Number 2.
Not Final
Nightwolf and
Fantasy.
Robin Hood rain fell over Jackson City like a warning whispered too
Watch
late.
DC Comics
It streaked
recently.
across gargoyles and fire escapes, ran in silver rivers down neon signs, and pooled in the cracked pavement of alleyways where deals were made and bones were broken. High above East 21, perched on the stone edge of Jackson Tower, Nightwolf watched the city breathe. The black and green armor absorbed the darkness, lenses narrowing as police sirens wailed somewhere near the docks. Since Commissioner Daniel Mercer had publicly aligned the department with him, the city's criminals had grown bolder, not quieter. When predators feel cornered, they bite. Across town, at a private airstrip hidden behind layers of shell companies and falsified permits, a jet from Evergreen City had landed without fanfare. Its passenger stepped down in a deep green hood, bow case slung over his shoulder, boots silent against wet concrete. Robin Hood had not come to Jackson City for spectacle. He had come for a king. Roman Vale, known in the underworld as the Sovereign, did not limit himself to Evergreen City anymore. He brokered weapons in Bloodhaven ports, laundered money through coast-to-coast casinos, and now, according to intel, Robin had torn from one of Vale's lieutenants. He was negotiating something far more dangerous in Jackson City. Vale had a habit of destabilizing a region before tightening his grip. Chaos was currency, and tonight, he had purchased a weapon of chaos with a name whispered in both cities. Foxwoman. Nightwolf dropped from his perch and vanished into the wet streets below, landing behind a warehouse near the Narrows where a shipment had arrived an hour ago. The intel Bruce Parker had traced through encrypted financial streams pointed here. Blackridge Shipping, a shell corporation recently reactivated. Inside, men in tactical gear moved crates stamped with false agricultural labels. But the insignia sprayed on the inner lids told the truth. A stylized crown over crossed blades, Vale's mark. A scream cut through the rain. Not fear, command. Nightwolf stepped into the warehouse through a skylight, descending by grapnel line between steel beams. He saw her immediately. Red and gold armor woven into a sleek bodysuit, a fox mask of polished copper and bone, twin daggers curved like fangs at her hips. Foxwoman. Except now she moved differently than the last time he had faced her. Sharper, focused, not desperate. Load faster, she ordered. The Sovereign doesn't like delays. A guard spotted Nightwolf first. He raised his rifle, too slow. Nightwolf hit the ground and swept the man's legs out from under him, elbow cracking against a visor, then pivoted into the next attacker. Gunfire sparked against steel crates. Nightwolf moved through them like a shadow with teeth, disarming, incapacitating, leaving bodies groaning in his wake. Foxwoman turned, daggers flashing into her hands. You again, she said, voice filtered but unmistakably amused. I thought we buried you under politics and paperwork. You should have stayed buried in prison, Nightwolf replied. She lunged. Steel rang against reinforced gauntlet. She twisted, using his block to pivot into a spinning kick that clipped his shoulder. She was faster than before, trained further, hardened. Her dagger grazed the plating at his ribs, sparks flying. A sudden whistle split the air. An arrow struck a crate beside Foxwoman, exploding into a net of electrified filament. She flipped backward just in time, slicing through it midair. Robin Hood stepped from the shadows between stacked cargo containers, bow already drawn again. You should really stop breaking out of institutions, he said evenly. It makes the paperwork unbearable. Foxwoman's mask tilted slightly. Evergreen's little myth, she said. I was wondering when you chase your master here. I don't have a master, Robin replied, releasing another arrow. The shaft split mid-flight into 3, forcing her to dive aside. Nightwolf seized the opening, driving forward with a shoulder charge that sent her crashing into a crate. She rolled instantly, slicing open a canister as she moved. Gas flooded the floor. Thick, gray, chemical. Nightwolf's filters sealed automatically. Robin drew a small device from his belt and clipped it to his collar. Foxwoman laughed, backing toward the loading bay doors. You boys really should coordinate better. The Sovereign counts on that. The Sovereign, Nightwolf growled. He's here. Not anymore. She slammed a detonator against the wall. The far end of the warehouse erupted into flame. Not an explosion meant to kill, but to destroy evidence. Crates burned. Documents curled into ash. Sprinklers failed instantly. Sabotaged. Foxwoman sprinted through the loading doors into the rain-soaked yard beyond. Robin and Nightwolf followed. Outside, black SUVs peeled away from the docks. On the nearest rooftop, a tall figure in a tailored coat watched beneath an umbrella, face partially hidden by a silver half-mask shaped like a crown. Roman Vale. The Sovereign, Robin said quietly. Nightwolf's lenses zoomed. Vale gave a slight nod, respectful, almost courteous, before stepping backward into the stairwell access door as gunmen opened fire from the SUVs. Robin dropped into a roll, firing arrows that disabled engines and shattered tires. Nightwolf tore through the nearest gunman with brutal efficiency, ripping weapons from hands and slamming bodies into asphalt. Foxwoman vaulted onto a departing SUV, riding it as it swerved toward the exit gates. Robin aimed, paused. Nightwolf leapt. He landed on the back of the moving vehicle as it burst through the gate and onto the slick city street beyond. Robin sprinted across stacked crates, leaping from rooftop edge to fire an arrow that embedded into the SUV's rear axle. The cable attached to it snapped tight, jerking the vehicle sideways. It flipped. Metal screamed against pavement. Nightwolf rolled free as it crashed, rising instantly to face Foxwoman, who emerged from the wreckage, mask cracked slightly along one edge. Robin landed beside him. Police sirens wailed closer now. Foxwoman wiped blood from her lip beneath the mask. "You really don't understand the game," she said. "Enlighten us," Robin replied. "The Sovereign doesn't need the city. He needs distraction." Her eyes flicked between them. "While you chase me, he consolidates power elsewhere. Evergreen, Jackson, it's all one board." Nightwolf stepped forward. "And you're a piece he sacrificed." Her laugh was softer this time. "No," she said quietly. "I volunteered." She lunged again, but this time Robin anticipated the move, firing a blunt-tipped arrow that struck her wrist and sent a dagger skidding across the street. Nightwolf swept her legs, pinning her arm behind her back. The mask came loose in the struggle. It fell to the wet pavement. Beneath it was a woman in her early 30s, sharp-featured, eyes burning not with madness but conviction. "Vivian Locke," Robin said, recognition settling in. "Former political strategist. Disappeared 5 years ago." Foxwoman smiled faintly despite the restraints locking around her wrists. "Not disappeared," she corrected. "Disillusioned." Cruisers screeched to a halt around them. Officers poured out, weapons raised, but lowering quickly when they saw Nightwolf and the captive. Commissioner Daniel Mercer stepped forward from one vehicle, rain soaking his coat. He studied the unmasked woman. "Vivian Locke," he confirmed grimly. "You're coming back to a much stronger cell this time." As officers lifted her, she looked at Nightwolf. "You think you won," she said softly. "But Vale's already moved his next piece." Robin retrieved her fallen mask, turning it over in his hands. "He always does," Robin replied. Vivian Locke, Foxwoman, was taken away in cuffs, no explosions, no theatrics, just rain and flashing lights. Nightwolf turned toward the rooftop where Vale had stood earlier. Empty now. "He's retreating," Nightwolf said. "For now," Robin answered. "He wanted us occupied." And he was. They stood in silence for a moment, sirens fading as the scene stabilized. Robin slung his bow across his shoulder. "Evergreen will need me soon. Vale doesn't abandon investments. He just shifts them." Nightwolf nodded. "Jackson's still his marketplace. Then we'll keep shutting down his stalls." A faint smile beneath the hood. Robin stepped backward into the shadows of the alley. "Next time, try not to let the warehouse burn." "Next time," Nightwolf replied. "Don't shoot my target." Robin vanished into the night. High above, thunder rolled across the skyline. In a private penthouse miles away, Roman Val stood before a panoramic window, watching news footage already broadcasting images of Foxwoman's capture. He removed his silver half-mask, setting it carefully on a marble table. 2 heroes in 1 city, he mused softly. "Interesting." He lifted a phone. "Begin phase 2, he said. Back on Jackson Tower, Nightwolf stood alone once more, rain sliding off his armor as the city lights flickered below. Another trophy would soon join his collection. Not the mask this time, but perhaps something else. A reminder, not of victory, of escalation, because Roman Vale was not done, and neither were they. To be continued.
Here's number 2.2.
World's Greatest number 2.2. Nightwolf and Robin Hood. The rain had stopped by the time the transport convoy reached the outer gates of Ironcrest Penitentiary. Floodlights cut through the lingering mist, illuminating concrete walls lined with electrified fencing and guard towers armed with high-caliber deterrents. This was not the same facility Foxwoman had escaped from before. Commissioner Daniel Mercer had personally overseen the upgrades. Inside the reinforced transport vehicle, Vivian Locke sat upright, wrists bound in composite restraints designed specifically for repeat metahuman offenders. She wore no mask now, no theatrics, just a faint, knowing smile. Nightwolf's motorcycle rolled alongside the convoy until the final gate opened. Robin Hood stood on a nearby rooftop, Green Hood unmoving in the cold wind, watching. As the armored doors opened, Mercer approached first. "Vivian Locke," he said evenly, "you're being remanded to permanent maximum security containment. No outside contact, no legal manipulation, no mysterious benefactors." Vivian tilted her head slightly. "You think Roman Vale will simply forget about me?" "He already has," Mercer replied. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Nightwolf. "No," she said softly, "he's just repositioning." Nightwolf said nothing. Iron doors clanged shut behind her. Layers of steel and reinforced glass sealed. The final magnetic lock engaged with a low, resonating thud. Foxwoman was contained again, for now. Outside the prison walls, Robin dropped silently beside Nightwolf. "She'll try again," Robin said. "Yes," Nightwolf replied, "but not tonight." A news helicopter circled above briefly before veering away, satisfied with the footage of Foxwoman's return to Ironcrest. Robin's gaze shifted eastward. "He's already gone," he said. Nightwolf nodded. "Roman Vale doesn't fight battles he can't control. And Jackson isn't where he holds power. Evergreen." Robin adjusted the strap of his bow case. He returned the moment Foxwoman failed. She was his smokescreen. While we were here, he's likely consolidating operations back home. Nightwolf looked out over the highway stretching beyond the prison. "Then this is where our paths divide. For now," Robin agreed. "Vale may do business in Jackson City, but Evergreen City is his throne room, and I don't let kings rule unchecked." Nightwolf extended a gloved hand. Robin took it. A quiet acknowledgement between warriors. "Keep your commissioner alive," Robin said. "Vale prefers destabilizing leadership before he strikes." Nightwolf's voice was low. "I'm aware." Within the hour, Robin Hood was airborne again, a private charter lifting off from a discreet runway under a false manifest. By dawn, he would be back in Evergreen City, the city that had birthed the Sovereign's empire. In a high-rise overlooking Evergreen's financial district, Roman Vale stood in his tailored suit, silver crown-shaped mask resting on the table beside him. Screens displayed news coverage from Jackson City. Foxwoman captured. Nightwolf and Robin Hood briefly seen together. Vale smiled faintly. "They cooperate," he murmured. "Good." A lieutenant shifted nervously nearby. "Sir, should we suspend operations in Jackson?" Vale shook his head. "No. We reduce visibility there, redirect assets. Evergreen remains primary." "And Robin Hood?" Vale lifted his mask, examining his reflection in its polished surface. "He will come," Vale said calmly. "He always does." He set the mask back on. "Prepare the council chamber." Back in Jackson City, Nightwolf stood atop Jackson Tower as dawn broke in faint gold over steel and glass. Commissioner Daniel Mercer's official statement was already circulating across news networks. Foxwoman secured, cooperation between police and Nightwolf successful. But Nightwolf didn't feel victory. Roman Vale had retreated, not been defeated. In the Wolf Cave later that morning, Bruce stood beside Max as footage replayed on the central monitor. "Robin Hood has returned to Evergreen City," Bruce observed. "Yes. And Mr. Vale? We'll be waiting." Bruce folded his hands behind his back. "Do you believe their alliance will hold?" Max removed his cowl, setting it carefully beside the display of trophies. Fragments of masks, badges, weapons. Reminders. "It doesn't have to hold forever," he said. "It just has to hold long enough." Miles away, Robin Hood landed on the rooftop of an old cathedral overlooking Evergreen's skyline. Below, Roman Vale's corporate headquarters stood like a polished monument to control. Robin drew an arrow and set it gently against the string, not firing it yet, just preparing, because kings did not fall in a single night. And the world's greatest heroes knew that sometimes victory was simply forcing evil to retreat. For now, to be continued.
So Nightwolf number 4 here will be the last final Nightwolf story in the main Nightwolf
Nightwolf
titles.
number 4, Biodyne. The docks of Jackson City were quieter than usual. Too quiet. Nightwolf crouched atop a rusted shipping crane overlooking Pier 47. Below, a cargo transfer was happening without proper registration. No Port Authority oversight, no shipping manifest broadcast, and every crate bore the same insignia, Halden Biodyne Systems. Nightwolf activated the enhanced optics in his cowl. Thermal signatures lit up across the loading zone, 12 armed men in tactical gray uniforms, escorting sealed refrigeration containers. Private security, but not licensed. He tapped into the police scanner frequency. No official transport logged for tonight. Then you're moving something you shouldn't, Nightwolf muttered. He leapt. Landing silently between 2 stacked containers, he moved like a shadow sliding between steel and fog. A guard rounded the corner, rifle raised lazily over his shoulder. Nightwolf grabbed him before he could react, slamming him gently but decisively into the metal wall. The man dropped unconscious. Across the dock, another guard noticed the sudden silence. Hey! A green-tipped grappler looked forward, yanking him off balance and into darkness. Within seconds, 3 more men were down. Then the alarm started. Spotlights snapped on, illuminating the dockyard in blinding white. Nightwolf didn't flinch. He moved faster. 2 guards fired. Bullets ricocheted off armored plating as he closed distance. A spinning kick disarmed one. An elbow strike dropped the other. He rolled beneath a spray of gunfire, flung a smoke pellet, and vanished into the haze. When the smoke cleared, half the security team was unconscious, zip-tied with their own restraints. The remaining men retreated toward the refrigeration crates. Nightwolf fired a wrist-mounted pulse charge at the control panel of the nearest container. The lock sparked and popped open. Cold vapor spilled out. Inside were rows of sealed biocanisters marked with hazard codes and genetic research warnings. Experimental compounds, unregistered, illegal human trials if he had to guess. A guard charged from behind with a stun baton. Nightwolf sidestepped and redirected the swing, driving the attacker into a stack of crates. Who authorized this transport? Nightwolf demanded, gripping the man's collar. Corporate clearance, the guard spat. Halden Biodyne has federal exemptions. For what? Nightwolf pressed. The man hesitated. Biological enhancement research. Nightwolf's grip tightened. On who? The guard didn't answer. Instead, headlights roared to life at the far end of the pier, armored trucks arriving as backup. Nightwolf deployed a flash burst from his palm-mounted device, temporarily blinding the advancing drivers. He hurled a compact EMP charge beneath the lead vehicle. It detonated with a crackle, disabling the engine. The second truck swerved into a stack of shipping pallets. In less than 5 minutes, the operation was dismantled. Police sirens approached in the distance. Nightwolf vanished into the upper shadows of the cranes. Back at the wolf cave, Max removed his cowl slowly. Bruce stood beside the central console, reviewing captured data from the dock servers. Halden Biodyne Systems, Bruce said thoughtfully. A biomedical conglomerate specializing in regenerative medicine, military-grade enhancement therapies, and neural interface research. Victor Halden, Max replied, CEO. A man with extraordinary political insulation. Max stared at the rotating logo on the screen. They were moving unregistered biocompounds. Bruce nodded. Which suggests off-book experimentation. Max paced. On volunteers? Bruce asked. No, Max said quietly. Not volunteers. Bruce folded his hands behind his back. And Mr. Halden himself? Didn't show. He rarely would, Bruce observed. Men like Halden build distance between themselves and consequence. Max stopped pacing. Then we removed the distance. The next night, Nightwolf infiltrated a Halden Biodyne warehouse on the industrial outskirts of the city. The interior looked sterile, too sterile for a storage facility. White walls, polished floors, rows of sealed medical pods. Inside several pods were restrained individuals wearing biometric collars. Awake, disoriented, test subjects. Security patrols moved in synchronized patterns, far more organized than dock mercenaries. Nightwolf analyzed their movements. Military training. He triggered a timed blackout. The lights cut. Emergency red illumination flickered on. Nightwolf activated night vision. He moved between guards with precise efficiency, disabling one with a nerve strike, another with a sonic pulse from his gauntlet. A third attempted to radio for help before being disarmed and restrained. Within minutes, the security unit was down. He approached the medical pods, scanning the biometric collars. "Neural suppression tech," he murmured. He interfaced his gauntlet with the system, overriding the lock protocols. One by one, the pods opened. The captives blinked in confusion. "You're safe," Nightwolf said calmly. "Police are on the way." He transmitted anonymous coordinates to Commissioner Daniel Mercer's task force. Before leaving, he accessed the facility's database. Project titles scrolled across the screen: Adaptive Resilience Trials, Metahuman Replication Initiative, Enhanced Combat Physiology. Max's jaw tightened beneath the mask. Halden wasn't just experimenting, he was trying to manufacture power. Later that evening, back in the Manor's study, Max stood by the window overlooking the city skyline. Bruce entered quietly with tea. "You're troubled, Master Jackson." "Halden's building something," Max said. "An army, or prototypes. And you believe tonight was merely a branch of a larger tree." "Yes," Bruce handed him the cup. "Victor Halden is a patient man, publicly charitable, politically connected. Removing him will require evidence that cannot be dismissed." Max stared out at the city lights. "Then we gather it." Bruce studied him carefully. "You are fighting corporations now, sir, not street gangs. This escalates the board." Max gave a faint, humorless smile. "It always escalates." Bruce nodded once. "Very well. I'll begin digging through Halden's philanthropic shell companies. And I'll make sure his operations stay disrupted." Outside, thunder rolled faintly over Jackson City. Over the next week, Nightwolf systematically dismantled 3 additional Halden-linked operations: a clandestine lab beneath an abandoned hospital, a data server hub hidden in a biotech startup office, and a transport convoy disguised as medical relief supplies. Each time, Victor Halden did not appear. Each time, Nightwolf left his calling mark: restrained guards delivered to police custody with encrypted evidence packages tied to Halden Biodyne systems. And each time, the media questioned how deep corporate corruption in Jackson City truly went. In his penthouse office high above the city, Victor Halden finally reviewed the reports personally. He did not rage. He did not panic. He simply turned off the screen and said to his assistant, "Accelerate phase 2. Back in the Wolf Cave, Bruce looked at the latest intercepted file. "Sir, Halden Biodyne has begun relocating assets." Max placed his cowl back on. "Good." Bruce raised an eyebrow slightly. "Good, sir." "If he's moving," Nightwolf said, voice now distorted through the armored mask, "it means we're close." He stepped toward the Batcycle-like wolf-themed bike platform. "Victor Halden may not appear in this story," Nightwolf said quietly, "but he will." The engines ignited, and somewhere in the city's biotech underworld, phase 2 was already beginning.
And then World's Greatest number 3.
World's Greatest number 3 Evergreen City was different from Jackson City in tone and rhythm, but crime moved through both like the same disease wearing a different mask. And when Nightwolf stepped off the private jet under a false flight registry and looked over the skyline from a nearby rooftop, he knew he hadn't come here for diplomacy. He had come because power was shifting. Roman Vale's influence had grown too bold, too public, and if the sovereign was tightening his grip here, it would eventually reach back into Jackson. Max Jackson did not allow threats to metastasize. Below, a convoy of black sedans rolled through the warehouse district, escorted by men in tailored suits with concealed weapons and earpieces. Nightwolf activated his cowl's audio enhancer just in time to hear one of them mention a shipment moving under Roman's direct authority. That was enough. A green-arrowed blur interrupted his calculations before he moved. An arrow struck the lead sedan's tire with surgical precision. The vehicle spun out harmlessly, blocking the street. Smoke arrows followed, clouding the area in thick emerald haze as men shouted in confusion. From the rooftop opposite Nightwolf, a hooded figure in light and dark green leapt into view, landing with effortless grace and firing a net arrow that wrapped two thugs together. Robin Hood didn't see Nightwolf at first. He was too busy cracking jokes. "Gentlemen," he called, launching a blunt force arrow that knocked a gun clean out of someone's hand. "This isn't a donation drive. Please return all illegal assets to your nearest vigilante." Nightwolf dropped into the fray without announcement. A thug lunged toward Robin Hood from behind. Nightwolf intercepted him mid-charge, flipping him over his shoulder and into the hood of a sedan. Robin Hood glanced over. "Well, if it isn't the big bad wolf, you stalking me, or is this a social call?" "Roman Vale," Nightwolf replied, voice steady and modulated. "He's overextended?" Robin Hood smirked beneath his mask. "Tell me about it. The Sovereign thinks Evergreen is his personal chessboard." Together, they dismantled the rest of the convoy with brutal efficiency, arrows disabling weapons, wolf-clawed gauntlets shattering resistance. Within minutes, Roman's men were zip-tied and groaning on the pavement. Then the final sedan door opened. Roman Val stepped out in an immaculate suit, posture calm despite the chaos. His eyes narrowed at the sight of two costumed figures standing side by side. "You travel far from home, Nightwolf," Roman said coolly. "And you," he added to Robin Hood, "continue to misunderstand power." Robin Hood drew another arrow. "Funny, I was about to say the same thing." Roman attempted to retreat, but Nightwolf was faster. A grappling line snapped around Roman's wrist, yanking him forward. Robin Hood fired a bolo arrow that wrapped around Roman's legs, sending him crashing onto the asphalt. Nightwolf leaned down, his cowl inches from Roman's face. "Your empire shrinks tonight." Roman only smiled faintly. "Empires adapt." Police sirens wailed in the distance as Robin Hood secured Roman for arrest. "I'll make sure he gets a cell with a view," he said, of the inside wall. Nightwolf turned to leave when a sudden orange glow flared against the night sky. Both heroes looked up. A column of fire rose from the industrial sector 3 miles east. Robin Hood swore under his breath, "That's a chemical processing plant." Nightwolf was already moving. "Then we don't have time." They reached the scene to find chaos. Flames roared from shattered windows. Fire crews struggled to contain the inferno. And moving like a streak of red and yellow lightning through the smoke was Velocity, darting in and out, pulling civilians to safety faster than the eye could track. At the center of the blaze stood a man in flame-retardant armor, laughing as he launched arcs of fire from wrist-mounted igniters. Inferno. Velocity skidded to a halt beside Nightwolf and Robin Hood. "You guys picked a great night to visit," the teenage hero said breathlessly. "Fire guys got serious anger issues." Inferno hurled a wave of flame toward a collapsing support beam. Velocity intercepted, moving the beam aside in a red blur before it crushed a trapped worker. Robin Hood fired a specialized arrow that burst into expanding foam upon impact, temporarily suppressing a section of fire. Nightwolf activated his suit's heat-resistant mode and charged straight through the flames toward Inferno. "You can't stop what's already burning," Inferno shouted. Nightwolf tackled him through a shower of sparks. They rolled across scorched pavement as Inferno attempted to ignite another blast, but Velocity zipped behind him and disarmed one gauntlet in a blink. Robin Hood followed with a shock arrow that short-circuited the second. Pinned to the ground, Inferno laughed bitterly. "You think this was random? I was paid." Nightwolf's internal recorder had been running since arrival. "By who?" Robin Hood demanded. Inferno coughed, staring up at the masked trio. "Victor Halden said the land would be cleared once it burned. Biodyne Expansion Project." Velocity froze. "Halden? The Jackson Biotech billionaire?" Inferno smirked. "He wanted this place ash so he could rebuild it under his name." Nightwolf's eyes narrowed behind the cowl. He had suspected escalation. Now he had proof. Police secured Inferno as fire crews finally contained the blaze. Robin Hood exhaled slowly. "Well, that's messy." Nightwolf turned to him. "Roman's in custody. Evergreen needs you." Robin Hood nodded. "Roman's not done. He never is." Velocity looked between them. "If Halden's behind this, that's Jackson City business, right?" Nightwolf met the young speedster's gaze. "Yes?" Velocity's jaw tightened with determination. "Then I'm coming." Robin Hood raised an eyebrow. "Field trip to the Wolf's Den?" Nightwolf gave a small nod. "Stay close. Don't improvise." Velocity grinned. "No promises." By dawn, Nightwolf and Velocity were standing inside the lobby of Halden Biodyne Systems in Jackson City. Nightwolf had already transferred the recorded confession to a secure physical drive. Security forces attempted to block their path, but Velocity dismantled resistance in flashes of motion while Nightwolf disabled surveillance and locked down exits. They reached Victor Halden's executive floor. Halden stood behind his desk, composed as ever. "You break into my building based on the word of an arsonist?" Nightwolf placed the recording device on the desk and pressed play. Inferno's voice echoed clearly through the office. Halden's expression did not crack, but his silence did. Minutes later, Commissioner Daniel Mercer arrived with a full warrant team. Nightwolf handed over the physical copy of the recording. "This ties Halden to conspiracy, arson, and attempted corporate sabotage," Nightwolf said evenly. Commissioner Mercer looked from the recording to the billionaire. "Victor Halden, you are under arrest." As Halden was escorted away, he glanced back once at Nightwolf. "This city will regret this." Nightwolf didn't respond. Outside the building, Velocity exhaled. "That was intense." "You did well," Nightwolf said, "but Evergreen still needs its Archer." Velocity smiled faintly. "Guess every city's got its own legend." "Go home," Nightwolf told him. Velocity nodded and vanished in a streak of lightning-fast motion. Nightwolf watched the sunrise over Jackson City, knowing their enemy had fallen, but also knowing power never vanished. It only waited. And in a quiet courtroom later that week, in a development barely covered by major outlets, Roman Vale posted bail. As he stepped out of custody, adjusting his cufflinks with calculated calm, he murmured to his attorney, "The game continues." Some empires adapt, and the world's greatest would have to be ready.
And then a list of the stories, because I have too many.
Here's a complete list of your recent stories, starting from Strange Stories number 1 through World's Greatest number 3, along with the characters appearing in each. Number 1, Strange Stories number 1, The Root King. Part 1, The Root King, Verdant Warden. The Root King, formerly a scientist turned plant-like being. Part 2, The City of Strange Creatures, Unnamed Explorer, Various Unidentified Strange Creatures. Part 3, Trapped in Commercials, Unnamed Man, Various Surreal Commercial Personas. Number 2, Strange Stories number 2, Part 1, Paranormal Investigator, Unnamed Investigator, Paranormal Entities, Unseen Presence. Part 2, Samurai of the Mountains, Unnamed Female Japanese Samurai, Mercenaries, Generic Armed Group. 3, The Dragon Scales number 1, The Dragon, Humanoid Dragon Metahuman Hero, Medieval Villagers, Various Enemies, depending on encounter. Part 4, Nightwolf number 3, Max Jackson, Nightwolf, Vivian Locke, Foxwoman, Lieutenant Daniel Mercer becomes Commissioner at End, Commissioner Theodore Theo Granger killed at End, Bruce Parker, Max's butler, Police Task Force, Criminal Henchman. Nightwolf number 3.2, Max Jackson, Nightwolf, Bruce Parker, Bank Robbers, Black Suits, Red Visors, Red Dragon Emblem. Number 6, Robin Hood number 2, Silas Woodrow, Robin Hood, Roman Vale, The Sovereign, Count Alexander Varelli, Vertaxis, Mob Thugs. 7, Nightwolf number 3.3, Max Jackson, Nightwolf, Bruce Parker. Referenced villains via trophies: Victor Cade, Red Mask, Purple Gang, Red Helmet, Mantle Identity, Dominic Falconer Struthers, Ostrich. Marcus Matthews, the Shadow Man. Vivian Locke, Foxwoman, Commissioner Daniel Mercer, Trophy Giver. 8, Grant Mercer number 1, Grant Mercer, Reporter. Grace, co-reporter. Max Jackson, Nightwolf, discussed reported. Commissioner Daniel Mercer, Vivian Locke, Foxwoman. Number 9, Case File number 1, Luminex Ravager. Luminex Ravager, Specimen 001. Military Containment Forces, Research Personnel. Number 10, Case File number 2, Noctyra Wraithwing. Noctyra Wraithwing, Specimen 02, Research Personnel, Desert Victims, referenced. 11, Green Torch 0.3 Part 1, Hal Ashford, Green Torch, Luminex Ravager, Specimen 001, Part 2, Hal Ashford, Green Torch, Noctyra Wraithwing. Number 12, Doom of Hell number 0, Unnamed Marine, Green Armored Suit, Red Visor, Chest Crystal, Demons of Hell. Number 13, World's Greatest number 2, Max Jackson Nightwolf, Silas Woodrow, Robin Hood, Roman Vale, The Sovereign, Vivian Locke, Foxwoman. Mob Thugs, Jackson City and Evergreen City Police. Background. Number 14, World's Greatest Number 2.2, Max Jackson, Nightwolf, Silas Woodrow, Robin Hood, Vivian Locke, Foxwoman, Roman Vale, The Sovereign, Ironcrest Penitentiary Guards. Number 15, Nightwolf number 4, Max Jackson, Nightwolf, Bruce Parker, criminals working for Victor Halden. Victor Halden, reference does not appear. Number 16, World's Greatest Number 3, Max Jackson, Nightwolf, Silas Woodrow, Robin Hood, Ethan Mercer, Velocity, Roman Vale, The Sovereign, Dashan Radu, Inferno, Victor Halden, Commissioner Daniel Mercer, Police Forces, Roman's legal team, brief appearance. If you'd like, I can next create a character master list, every hero and villain introduced so far, a city-by-city breakdown of heroes and threats, or a Saga 1 master continuity chart showing alliances and crossovers.
And then we get Lightning Bug number 1 and number 2.
Lightning Bug number 1. Ever since Velocity first streaked across the skyline of Evergreen City, Tyler Navarro couldn't look at the world the same way again. Before that night, heroes were rumors from other cities, legends on news feeds, names whispered in online forums. Nightwolf in Jackson City, Skyforge in West Haven, the warrior from history books. But Velocity, he was real. He was here. A teenage hero saving banks and stopping fires just a few neighborhoods away. And when Velocity teamed up with Robin Hood and even Nightwolf during that massive showdown, Tyler knew one thing for sure. Evergreen City didn't just have one hero anymore. It had a future. Tyler's mom worked late nights at Halden Tech Solutions' Evergreen Research Branch, one of many companies connected to larger biotech and energy corporations. She handled inventory logistics. Nothing flashy, nothing dangerous. But Tyler had noticed something. Old prototype gear, outdated experimental tech, equipment deemed inefficient by corporate standards. Stuff boxed up and scheduled for disposal. Stuff nobody would miss. At least, that's what he told himself. Tonight, crouched in his bedroom with the door locked, Tyler tightened the final bolt on his homemade gauntlet. The suit wasn't perfect. The main body was reinforced black polymer mesh, flexible but protective. Thin yellow circuit lines ran across the arms and torso like stylized lightning veins. Over his chest sat a small circular energy core powered by a salvaged capacitor battery. The helmet was the best part. Sleek, bug-inspired, large amber-tinted lenses for night vision enhancement, a segmented jaw guard, 2 subtle antenna-like receivers for signal scanning. He flipped the switch on his wrist. The suit hummed. Soft golden light pulsed from the chest core, and faint glowing patterns illuminated across his arms. He raised his palm toward the far wall. "Okay," he whispered. "Please work." He pressed the trigger node. A crackling bolt of condensed electrical plasma shot from his palm, striking the wall-mounted target he'd built from scrap metal. The metal smoked. Tyler stared at his hand. "Yes," he laughed, quietly so his mom wouldn't hear. "Lightning Bug," he said to himself. "That's what they'll call me." Because he wasn't as fast as Velocity. He wasn't as skilled as Robin Hood. He wasn't as terrifying as Nightwolf. But he could light up the dark, and sometimes that's enough. 2 nights later, Evergreen City's industrial district buzzed with trouble. A jewelry distribution warehouse alarm blared into the night. Security cameras flickered offline. Inside, a group of 6 men moved in tight formation, all black tactical suits, red visors covering their eyes, and on each chest an unmistakable red dragon emblem. They worked efficiently, loading high-value merchandise into reinforced cases. 3 minutes, one of them barked. The lights inside the warehouse suddenly exploded into brightness. Every single overhead fixture flared to maximum intensity. The thugs shielded their visors. "What the?" a voice echoed from above. "Hey, dragon guys, ever heard of subtlety?" They looked up. Perched on a steel beam near the ceiling was a figure glowing faint gold in the dark, eyes shining like twin lanterns. One thug fired upward. Lightning Bug dropped from the beam just as bullets tore through metal. He hit the ground in a roll and extended both hands. Twin bolts of electrical energy blasted outward, slamming into two attackers and sending them convulsing to the floor. The others regrouped fast. "Take him down!" One rushed forward with a baton. Lightning Bug triggered his chest core to full brightness. The suit flared, flooding the warehouse with searing white gold light. The red visors malfunctioned under the intensity. The thug stumbled blindly. Tyler sidestepped and fired a short-range pulse into the man's torso, dropping him without lethal force. Another attacker tackled him from the side. Tyler hit the floor hard, air leaving his lungs. "Okay," he wheezed. "That part needs work." He slammed his gauntlet into the thug's chest and released a shock burst. The man flew backward into a crate. Only two remained. They split up. Lightning Bug dimmed his suit suddenly, plunging half the warehouse into shadow. One thug swung wildly in the dark. Tyler activated night vision mode inside his helmet. To him, everything turned sharp green and crystal clear. He fired a precise shot that knocked the weapon from the thug's hands. The last attacker tried to flee through the loading dock. Tyler sprinted after him, not super speed, but adrenaline-fueled fast, and launched a concentrated bolt at the ground in front of the man. The blast sparked against concrete, forcing him to fall backward. Police sirens wailed in the distance. Lightning Bug stood over the fallen criminals, chest core glowing steadily. "You guys really need a new dress code," he said, looking at the red dragon emblem. "It's getting predictable." As the police vehicles screeched to a halt outside, Tyler fired a grappling line from his wrist and shot upward toward the rafters. Moments later, officers stormed the warehouse. All 6 criminals were unconscious, no fatalities, no serious injuries, and scrawled in faint scorch marks on the concrete floor was a small glowing symbol, a stylized lightning bolt shaped like insect wings. From a nearby rooftop, Tyler Navarro pulled off his helmet, breathing hard. He looked down at the scene. "They're gonna talk about this," he whispered. He thought about Velocity, about Robin Hood, about Nightwolf. Guess Evergreen City's got another hero now. He placed the helmet back on. The lenses glowed, and Lightning Bug leapt into the night.
And now, Lightning Bug number 2. And then, my first sub-storyline of Nightwolf. Nightwolf Max Jackson. And that's the only one in that series. But
Lightning Bug number 2, Full
video.
Moon Fallout. The first report hit social media at 10:47 p.m. Blurry footage, shaky camera, a massive wolf-like creature tearing through the back alley behind a convenience store in Evergreen City. By midnight, 3 more sightings had surfaced. Clawed footprints, bent street signs, a delivery truck flipped onto its side like a toy. Tyler Navarro stared at the screen in his bedroom, helmet resting beside him. "A werewolf," he muttered. Ever since becoming Lightning Bug, he'd stopped laughing at weird headlines. In a world with speedsters, armored vigilantes, alien heroes, and biotech criminals, why not monsters? He checked the lunar calendar on his phone. Full moon. Of course it is. He suited up. The Lightning Bug armor hummed to life, golden lines illuminating his room before he slipped out the window into the evergreen night. The trail was easy to follow. Claw marks shredded a chain-link fence near Riverside Park. Trash cans were torn apart. The air smelled faintly metallic and wild. Tyler activated his helmet scan mode. Heat signatures flickered near the tree line. Something large. Something moving fast. A low growl rolled through the darkness. Lightning Bug turned slowly, and then he saw it. Nearly 7 feet tall, covered in coarse gray-black fur, muscles coiled beneath its skin. Yellow eyes glowed under the moonlight. Claws scraped against asphalt as it stepped forward. The werewolf snarled. Tyler swallowed. "Okay," he whispered. "Not a costume." The creature lunged. Tyler barely rolled aside as claws slashed where his head had been. Sparks flew as they scraped against his armored shoulder. He fired a quick energy bolt at its torso. The blast struck, but instead of dropping, the werewolf staggered back and roared in pain, fur smoking slightly. "Tough hide," Tyler muttered. The beast charged again. This time, Tyler activated his chest core at high intensity. Blinding golden light flooded the park. The werewolf recoiled, shielding its eyes. Sensitive vision. Good. Tyler used the opening to fire rapid stun bursts at its legs. Electricity crackled around its frame, slowing its movements. But it wasn't enough. With frightening speed, the creature swiped him across the chest, sending him crashing into a park bench. The armor absorbed most of the impact, but Tyler's ears rang. "Okay," he groaned, pushing himself up. "You hit hard." The werewolf circled him now, breathing heavy, clearly agitated by the light. Tyler's mind raced. He couldn't just blast it until it stopped moving. If this was some kind of transformation, he switched his gauntlets to pulse frequency mode. Instead of direct damage, the setting emitted concentrated electromagnetic waves designed to disrupt unstable energy patterns. "If you're magical," he said under his breath, "this is a guess. If you're scientific, this is a better guess." The werewolf leapt. Tyler planted his feet and unleashed both palms at once, not a bolt, but a sustained humming pulse. The wave hit the creature midair. It convulsed violently, crashing into the ground in a heap of fur and claws. Tyler kept the pulse steady. The air shimmered around the beast. Its body twitched, shrinking slowly. The fur began retracting. Claws shortened. The growls shifted into human groans. Tyler's breath caught. The transformation reversed completely. Lying unconscious on the pavement was a teenage boy in torn clothes. Someone Tyler recognized. "Mark?" Tyler whispered, lowering his gauntlets. "Mark Mercer. His classmate from physics. Track team. Quiet. Always sat near the back of class." Tyler stumbled closer, heart pounding. "No way." Mark stirred weakly, eyes fluttering open. "Tyler," he croaked, barely conscious. "What happened?" Tyler froze. He was still in full costume, helmet on, voice distorted. "You were attacked," Lightning Bug said carefully. "You're safe now." Mark winced, sitting up slowly. He looked confused, no memory of claws or fangs. Tyler scanned him quickly. Residual energy spikes. This wasn't magic. It was chemical. Some kind of mutagenic trigger responding to lunar cycles. His stomach dropped. Evergreen had biotech labs, experimental compounds. Victor Halden's influence had reached the city before. "Mark," Lightning Bug said, voice steady but urgent, "has anything weird happened to you lately? Labs, injections, experiments?" Mark shook his head weakly. "My uncle, he works security at some research place. I visited him last week. There was this accident. Something spilled." Tyler's mind raced. Of course. Wrong place. Wrong time. The pulse had stabilized Mark for now. But if it was chemical, the transformation could happen again. Police sirens echoed in the distance. Tyler stepped back. "Go home," Lightning Bug instructed. "Stay inside during the next full moon. I'll figure this out." Mark looked up at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "Who are you?" Lightning Bug hesitated. "A friend." He fired his grappling line and vaulted into the trees just as squad cars pulled into the park. From a rooftop 2 blocks away, Tyler removed his helmet, breathing hard. Mark Mercer. A victim, not a monster. He stared at the full moon overhead. "This isn't random," he whispered. "Someone caused this." Lightning Bug powered down the glow in his suit, eyes narrowing. If biotech companies were experimenting in Evergreen City, then this wasn't just a monster hunt anymore. It was an investigation. And next time, he might not be able to save his classmates so easily.